You're standing directly in front of someone you've met multiple times, and their name is completely gone. It isn't even hovering at the tip of your tongue. It's completely absent, as if it were never filed in the first place. This triggers a 12-second window of pure improvised theater. You angle your body away, desperately hoping a third party enters the conversation, or a ringing phone provides a convenient escape. For those who experience this consistently, the social cost is high. Society often labels chronic name forgetters as careless, rude, or even unintelligent. On the receiving end, the sting is genuine. To the person whose name was forgotten, the lapse registers as a message that they didn't matter enough to be remembered. Neurological research suggests these social lapses stem from specific cognitive bottlenecks, rather than character flaws or a lack of interest. Consider the level of detail you actually do retain. You likely remember their specific sense of humor, the way they described their career, or a nuanced opinion they shared about a movie. You hold a rich, textured mental profile of the person, yet the specific slot where their name belongs remains a clean, unfiled void. This discrepancy indicates that the mind is prioritizing information differently, rather than failing to record the interaction entirely. During a new introduction, the working memory in the prefrontal cortex enters a state of high-intensity processing, attempting to manage several complex streams of data at once. The brain is simultaneously decoding facial expressions, registering vocal tone, and calculating social dynamics. These distinct cognitive nodes are all competing for limited mental real estate. At this moment of peak cognitive load, you are handed an arbitrary sound, the person's name. Without an immediate connection to existing knowledge, this sound is often the first thing pushed out of the crowded silhouette. The brain prioritizes high-stakes survival data, like social cues and intent, leaving little room to babysit a single, isolated syllable. This effect is amplified for those who experience high self-awareness or social anxiety during these greetings. Instead of external focus, their internal monologue takes over, checking handshake firmness or worrying about eye contact. This creates the next-in-line effect, a phenomenon first documented by psychologist Malcolm Brenner in 1973. Brenner found that people anticipating their own turn to speak show a marked decrease in memory for what the person immediately before them said. During an introduction, the brain is busy editing its future performance, effectively bulldozing the incoming auditory information of a name before it can be stored. This points to a preoccupation problem. The brain is so engaged with navigating the next social move that it fails to register the immediate present. Beyond preoccupation, there is the issue of semantic emptiness. A 1987 study by McWeeny and Ellis illustrated why names are uniquely difficult for the brain to grip. Researchers showed two groups the same photo. They told one group the man was a baker by profession, and the other group that his surname was Baker. Even though the word was identical, the group that learned the profession showed significantly higher retention than the group that learned the name. A profession like baker activates a pre-existing web of associations: bread, flour, or early mornings. These anchors give the brain multiple ways to hold on to the information. As a surname, Baker triggers nothing. It is a rootless label that lacks a conceptual hook, making it easy for an efficient brain to discard. The human mind is designed to store meaning rather than raw, disconnected data, which is why arbitrary sounds are the first to be lost. Human memory is not a digital filing system that passively records every file it encounters. It functions through impressions and patterns, ruthlessly prioritizing information that is surprising, connected to existing knowledge, or high in emotion. Consider a funeral. You'll remember the specific silence, the smell of the flowers, and the emotional resonance of a eulogy, but you likely won't remember a single word printed on the order of service. Because the brain relies on these associative webs, individuals who forget names often possess a memory architecture that is highly attuned to context and emotion, specializing in the texture of a person, while naturally overlooking mechanical labels. Since the brain refuses to file labels automatically, you must intervene by manually building an association. This requires repeating the name immediately, or mentally connecting it to a person you already know, creating the hook your brain lacks. This manual effort constructs the contextual bridge that the name cannot build for itself. Understanding this allows for an end to the shame spiral. Forgetting a name does not reflect a lack of care for others. A name is simply the least interesting thing about a person, an arbitrary sound assigned to them before they had done a single thing worth remembering. Prioritizing the real stuff, the stories, the feelings, and the personality, is a far more meaningful cognitive trait than the mechanical task of remembering a label under pressure.